But I'm Fiona Barnes, Warrington College of Business, the Management Communication Center. I teach writing over there to our business students. Dorothy teaches both writing and speaking. And I will talk about SpeedGrader, and Dorothy will be talking to you about GoReact, which is a much more interesting and sexy tool, I think, than mine. But how many of you in the room use SpeedGrader? Hands up. Okay, just about everybody. So I hope I have some new things to offer. I use it extensively, and every semester I seem to find one new thing that is useful. So perhaps you'll find one new thing. Why do we use it? Well, of course, environmentally, it's a really good thing to use. It also means that those piles of paper don't have to get lugged around with chiropractor bills, and of course the fear, in my case, of dripping coffee on it every time. Or the student who said, but I did hand it in, I did, and they're magically not there. As far as security is concerned, SpeedGrader is also very useful. We can see exactly when they submitted, so that when they tell us, you know, I worked so very hard on it and, you know, didn't leave it to the last minute and then the date stamp says 11:59, we have some suspicion that perhaps that is not true. The student viewed the document. We can see, did they actually view our feedback, which is wonderful. Very frustrating when you see students who aren't, when you've spent hours on it. And of course, my personal favorite, because I teach writing, 320 undergraduate students per semester, and occasionally, far less often than you would think, get the plagiarism case. We have the Turnitin report, where it will tell you exactly how much of what they've submitted is original and is not original. And that, if you don't use it already, please go ahead and use it. It's a wonderful thing. It has certainly saved me in a number of situations. For now, still integrated into Canvas. I think watch that space, because we're not sure what's happening there. But we'll keep pushing, keep pushing. We pushed back, and it helped last time. So. Variety of instructor responses. You may have just used one type of response. I'm going to show you a couple. You can add a comment, obviously, and type it into the text box. On the left-hand side is the attachment. So if you have set answers, for example, you don't have to keep typing them in. You can upload a document that perhaps has resources or an ideal answer, so you don't have to do the work. The middle one there, the media. You can use your webcam, and I found that very useful for online students whom I don't see that often, is I will videotape a little comment to them and say, you think you've really improved since the last one, it's great, you're no longer doing such and such and such and such, and it sort of breaks through that barrier. They start to see you as a person and that we actually care about them. There, the mic, if you're using Chrome for SpeedGrader, you can actually talk your comments in and it will type it into the box for you, so you don't actually have to type, you can talk. Yes, there you go. You've got one good point.
You just saved me a lot of time.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, and there's a picture of the record. If you hit the media button in the middle, it'll allow your webcam. You obviously have to have the webcam there, and you can then speak to the students. Yes, this is what I do to my students. It's pretty sad, isn't it? But these are online MBA students. They are consenting adults. They have paid an absolute fortune, and they want the pound of flesh. And there is my pound of flesh for them. You can see it up there. So many ways in which you can actually comment. There's the text comment. There's the single comment. There's the let's surround this entire horrible section here and explain to you why it doesn't work comment. Then there's the highlighting, where you can highlight where they're repeating certain errors. And then, of course, you can cross things out which are completely wrong and suggest things that they might do. So if you haven't used, those tools are up there on the top left. You can't see it here. But I recommend trying them because they do capture the attention a little bit more than the others do. And yes, there's a lot on here. I do understand that. Team assignment grading makes life so much easier if you have teams. You can create your own teams. They sometimes come in with teams. And of course that, in many situations, helps both with collaborative learning, but also with the fact that we don't have to grade as much, which I sometimes think is why we often use the teams. You can make comments that go to the whole group, so everybody gets the same comment, but you can also click so that you give individual comments for individual team members, which is quite useful, I think, too. Peer reviewing, which I use extensively. They have to be trained to do it, but it can be done. You can manually assign, you can automatically assign. Canvas will just match them up. You can make them anonymous so that they don't feel so awkward about giving their classmates comments, because they do sometimes. Here we have two students who've alternated. They've given their end comment over here. And you can toggle between the two, and you can give them a grade. They can also put a grade in a rubric, too, which doesn't go into the grade book, so that they are paying attention to the detail. Assessment integration. We're all about assessment these days, right? We all have to hand that data in. Here's my rubric for an assignment. At the bottom, I have the assessment that I will actually use as data for the AACSB. And it simply, it does not meet, meets, exceeds expectations, and I just click the box, and then I just collect the data at the end. It's very, very quick and easy. And then I look at the spread of how it develops and go from there. Time is running out, so let me move. Muting the assignment I found very useful because sometimes I want to go back and maybe the grade I gave at the beginning, I've shifted slightly, I want to change that. So the mute button is very, very useful. Also, you can hide student names in the SpeedGrader. So you can anonymize grading, which sometimes is quite useful if you have a tricky class, for example, or you have a class that says, you know, I think you like them or whatever. You said, actually, I anonymized it. I didn't know who I was grading. You can do it alphabetically when they uploaded. There are a variety of things there. You can grade by section. So if you have a number of moderators or peer reviewers or TAs, you can, in fact, have them grade by section. You can grade by question in the quiz so that you can look at the spread of the answers. Shortcut keys, if you didn't know about these. If you click on the keyboard in the top left, there are these shortcut keys. You just hit them and move along. And I am out of time, but we will have a question time if you have questions. Over to you, Dorothy.
All right. So just as grading, using SpeedGrader for writing, I use GoReact for grading the oral presentations. And this is so much better than what we had before. We used to record on paper, and sometimes the students would never get it because the paper feedback was after the class was over. And of course, it would really be too late for them to actually improve their skills for the next assignment a lot of times. So GoReact is a wonderful tool that's useful for evaluating those oral presentations. It integrates into Canvas, so it's easy to use it within Canvas. You can create the assignments there. It's reasonably priced. It's $20 for a semester. The students have 90 minutes per video, but they really have unlimited time to record. I'm really lucky in that the College of Business has purchased a license, so all of our students have no direct fee. I'm sure they're paying in some way or another, but there's no direct fee for providing the Canvas use of the GoReact. It's cloud-based, so all you really need is your camera, your laptop, and the internet, and everything is stored on GoReact's servers, and you can access it from anywhere that you have internet access, and it's double password protected because it's kind of their password plus it's Canvas's password, so it's really very safe. And you can record live like we're doing right now. So if anyone wants to see how it's working live, you can join the front row there and you can see it happening now. Or the students can record because it is also an app on their smartphone or their smart devices. And I use that device for my distance learning students so they can record their presentations on their phones. And then I can grade them later. And you can use a number rubric, and you also have a place for free-form comments as well as markers, which are wonderful tools as well. So you can use it for a variety of types of presentations. The interviews is interesting. What you can do there is you can record yourself asking a question, and then the students watch that question, and then they record themselves responding to the question. So it can be useful for mock interviews for any number of purposes, whether it's for jobs or training in patient relationships or anything like that. Now, team presentations really right now are live. They haven't quite got the Brady Bunch thing going yet for distance students. And then, of course, the practice pitches is a wonderful tool. I always create that activity so students can record themselves practicing, and then they send me an email and can you look this over, or we'll look it over together before the final presentation. So it's easily integrated into Canvas. You just press create video, and it gets started, opens up a window for you to record. When you do create it in Canvas, make sure it's an external tool. And make sure you click load this as a new tab, otherwise you end up with a really tiny window. Now, this is what it looks like when you're recording. This is a student recording at home, and you can do timeline comments. So the timeline comments, you type in the box here, and then they show up, the comments show up on the timeline, but also on the video. So when students are watching it, they get those corrective comments right at the moment that they're doing it. So it's a wonderful tool so that instead of getting a comment saying you're doing this and they're like, I didn't see myself doing that, the comment shows up when they're doing it, when they're saying it, when they're making that gesture. And so as they're watching these things, they can press them and they pop up, and they can go right to that point in their video and see the comments. Markers, I love markers. They're easy. You just click them, and make sure when you create them that the first letter of the first word is a word that you're going to remember. So for me, F is filler, and so I've got my little filler button there. For this student, I just for 1 minute clicked that marker every time she had an or an or whatever. In 1 minute, 15. That was fortunately during her practice. When she went back and checked herself, she came up for her whole pitch with 32. 32 fillers. And the good thing is that by the time the course ended and she was doing her final presentation, she had 3 fillers in the entire presentation. So I see actual improvements. I see things happening. I make comments on students' baseline presentations, and by the final presentation, they're fixed. So it's a wonderful tool. Now you can also use the evaluation assessment at the same time as you can do timeline comments. So you can build where you're applying points values all the way through, but you can also type in comments while you're plugging in the values there, so it makes it very efficient for grading. So you can quickly go through there. So if you have any questions and want to see it in action, you can come up here to the computer and it's doing some recording. I also have a representative from GoReact, Joseph, who's here with us on phone, ready to answer your questions on GoReact. And I have his business cards as well. I'll be passing those out for anyone. And then if you have an interest and would like to fill out an interest card, we've got that as well. So yes, and we have door prizes. So questions?
How long have you been using it?
2 years.
2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And what changes have they made over
Well, a couple of nice ones. One is that you didn't used to be able to like sort by student, and now you can do searches by student and find just their data and their recording information, that kind of good stuff. The markers are something that's new. You can now upload PowerPoints and have them synchronize with the presentation. So there's some other features that it's amazing. They're very responsive. Whenever I call and say, I wish it would do this, it's like 2 or 3 days later it's doing it. It's kind of amazing. And then if you have any problems or issues, they have a phone number for faculty that you can call, and they respond right away. Students have like an email where they have their problems, they contact, but we have a phone number. Oh, you do have one? Okay.
So if you
Thank you for
type
driving.
something and it turns out you put it at the wrong place, can you drag it to where it needs to be?
That's a good question, Joseph. I've never tried that.
You can't drag it to the right place, but there's a place you can click the timestamp and then move that by a couple seconds, or there's a dragger there, but yeah, you can do that.
And what it does is it automatically, when you start typing, it notices where it is and it kind of goes back. So when you're finished typing, it may be well past that point, but it'll go back to that start point.